And we're live.
Ho, you fat? Really?
What
They
is that?
let
Is
they
that that
let
guy in the
a
Chinese
basketball
basketball
player,
league or something? That guy. I saw that on Twitter.
they really let a professional basketball player have that last name.
Uh,
No
yeah,
offense to any of you ladies out there, please, please. We are not offending you. We're not trying. Wow, I couldn't believe that, guys. But
Is that a
you
real
can
name? Is that a real
yeah,
name?
it is. It is.
Okay.
I
yes,
think he's part of the Australian the NBA. I forget, was it the Adelaide?
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And
Fucking
his first
I
name
just
is
I just saw the
Steve.
name. Yeah. Okay.
His first name is Steve.
All
with
Go
right.
two
figure.
E's. Well, wait, with three E's. I think. I think it's like
Yeah,
STEEVE. Yeah,
Stevie.
yeah.
All
Wow,
right.
that's insane. Anyway, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in onto the point with
Skip.
and the king. You guys know what to do. Go down there, click subscribe, click like, leave some comments. We love you guys. You know, you guys can actually reach out to us to maybe get one of these. You never know. You
Yeah.
never
Well,
know. I know
we're gonna have a
Jazz is
new
getting
shipment
one.
coming in, and we'll be able to have a bit more of a specific order system soon. But right now, the shirts are in production. So just so everyone knows
Yes,
out there.
we will have more. We sold out really quick before we could even like put it out in the streets. Um, but guys, how are you? Oh, let me just say first, thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it, especially on Kenyon's video breakdown video. We really enjoyed that. And thank you for uh, supporting our phenomenal guests, especially right there, my man Jas Grewal. By the way, Jazz, happy belated birthday.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. Finally got a day off. Pretty upset because I just found out that the G League Ignite played again tonight against I always forget the team Victor Wembanyama plays on. It's a tongue twister. But he dropped another 36 points. So he dropped 37 game one, 36 today, and kind of upset I missed that. But I'll check out the highlights after.
So it's settled. The Raptors tank this year.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll talk about him later on because I know Jazz, you got a lot to say about him.
yeah.
Skip,
A
what's
lot of
up,
people do.
man?
Not much. Just ready to talk some basketball. Finish up our season preview. We obviously did part one of the preview last week. We're going to be
Yes,
dropping the rest of it today. So stay tuned. And
yes.
yeah,
Today is part two of our Raptors preview for the upcoming season. So there's a lot of things that shout out to Josh from Raptors Republic and Clutch Points. You know, thank you for being on the show. But we did not get to dive into a lot of things. So today we're going to do a couple deep dives into certain things. Now, the Toronto Raptors have so many players. It's ridiculous the squad they have. Like we can go through Pascal, OG, Freddie, Scotty, Boucher, Kem Birch, Thad Young, Malachi Flynn, Delano Banton. There's so many other guys. Bo Cruz. And what's his name?
Not sure if you said Precious here.
Josh.
Oh yeah, Josh
Precious.
Jackson.
Precious. Yes. Josh Jack. Yes.
sure.
There's so many guys that are within this system that are within the Raptors depth chart. Now, Jazz, we brought you on here specifically to ask you how deep is the Raptors depth chart when it comes to the roster that they currently have formed?
Just looking at it on paper, I think Nurse has a lot to play with. There's a bunch of different, obviously Masai and the Raptors have a vision, tall, lanky, gangly guys who can defend multiple positions. That's sort of, I
And
guess, the
play
central.
multiple positions.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Though the point guard is sort of like a contentious topic right now, and I'm sure that we're going to talk about that in terms of the depth chart. But just based on paper, you've got 9 guys that are sort of sure bets. So you got your starters and Fred, Gary, Scotty, OG, and Pascal. And then off the bench, then off the bench, you got Precious, Chris, Thad, Otto. So that's 9 guys already. And Nurse, despite saying that he's going to try to lessen the load for Fred VanVleet, which means minutes for Ben and Malachi Flynn, who are both the sort of 2 guys to really watch for, especially early in the season, to see who sort of takes that backup role. Obviously, staggering positions is another option, but I genuinely think that like that shooting aspect is super important at the point guard spot. So it would be nice whether Malachi or Delano can develop a decent jump shot, sort of like a respectful jump shot. And Malachi's showing that definitely. I think Delano's showing small flashes of that. And I think the first month of the season is really going to be telling in terms of where Nurse is going to go. Because if you're in his doghouse, it's really hard to get out of that. And I think Malachi and Delano got to, just right away take the reins and show what they're doing.
I'm just going to jump in. I don't necessarily disagree, but like, if you've been watching the preseason, it seems like Delano is not in that really conversation for that 10th spot. In the first game, I think it was Malachi who came in that spot. And then when Malachi got hurt, the second game, it was like he was rotating through like Juancho and Christian Coloco in that spot. And Banton didn't really come in until the deep bench guys came in. So I think Banton has a huge argument to be kind of in that conversation, the way he's played in Summer League, the way he's played early in the preseason so far.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like he's going to be the first option to be that 10th guy. Malachi might get that shot just because it's kind of his do or die year.
Exactly.
They might give him that month to like do or die. But barring that, I think it's really interesting because there seems to be like, I have like a 3 or 4 man competition in that spot, and they're all completely different players, right? Like I think Malachi could be the 10th guy. I think Kem Birch could be the 10th guy if he can show that he's healthy. I think Coloco could be the 10th guy, and I think Juancho could be the 10th guy. And aside from
Champagne.
Well, Champagne's got to make the roster first. That's the next tier down the list. Because he's getting a push right now from Josh Jackson, and if Champagne is not healthy enough to play in preseason, I don't know if you can carry him on the roster because he did not play in Summer League, has not played in preseason up until this point when we're recording this show. It'll probably drop in a couple days, so I'm not sure what's going to happen between now and then. But Champagne's roster spot is in serious jeopardy right now. Anyway, back to my point. I think the 4 guys that are in competition for that 10th spot right now, it's really interesting because you got one guy who's like a point guard, a small player, a ball handler. Then you got Juancho, who's like that positionless, theoretically fits in with the rest of the roster really well. And then you got 2 bigs in Coloco and Birch who are, I mean, they play kind of the same role as each other, but like, it's really interesting because Nurse can go kind of 3 or 4 different ways. And it's going to be, I think early in the season, it might depend on matchups, but I think eventually someone's going to kind of earn that job. And the other thing we have to consider is that Otto Porter Jr. is already hurt. He has an extensive injury history. So I don't think it's realistic to expect he's going to play 82 games this year. So there are going to be spots for these guys to slot in as, that 9th guy or that 8th guy when guys are hurt, when Otto's out, when people are down. So it would benefit them to have 2 or 3 of these guys show out. But I think those are kind of the guys who are in the mix, and then Banton is knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Go on, Jas. Go on.
No, please. I was just gonna. I think when Skip mentioned Delano didn't play much in the last game, I think that's just Nurse sort of just like surveying what's out there. Because I think he's been speaking highly about Ben even during this summer during Team Canada play in South America. I just feel like he knows what he's going to get from Ben, and that sort of he's got that in his back pocket. Okay, let me see what the other guys can do. And I think, and I disagree with Skip. I think Justin Champagnie has that locked up because Nurse has seen what Champagnie's been able to do in the regular season. Those intangible plays, the rebounding, knocking down corner threes, just a feisty defender. I think those are things that Nurse has in the back of his mind, and I'm not sure if you're gonna convince him of anything.
I'm high on Champagnie, but he's got to play. He's got to be on.
He's got to, yeah. We'll see.
Nurse has to put him in. Nurse has to put him in. But speaking of with Nurse putting the players in to the system. Now, last year, Toronto wasn't ranked very highly when it came to the offense.
14th in
So,
offensive rating.
yes. So my question to you, Skip, is based on this depth chart and the players that are available for Nick Nurse to play with, do you see the Raptors getting better offensively? Because like on our last show, I did say they are going to exceed expectations. Now,
Yep.
do you see what they can do on offense to get better? Because I know you did mention on the last episode that you weren't too high on their offense. You did enjoy their defense in the transition game. Yes. But you did say that you weren't too high on their offense. I'm just paraphrasing. So can you get more? You didn't give us too many details. Can you get more in depth than that, please?
For sure. So I think the main thing last year is that the offense really struggled to create shots in the half court, create good shots, create open shots. So that involves struggling from three. We already did a whole 3-point episode. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but not getting enough open threes, not getting good shots off from three, but more importantly, not getting in the paint, not getting good, easy touches in the paint and scoring easily. So bottom line, they're going to have to generate more good looks in the half court. And that to me kind of just means putting more downhill pressure at the rim, just really driving. I think we've been over Scotty a lot, but I think Scotty has to really take an initiative there. Pascal is kind of the one guy who already does that, who already gets inside and gets to the rim and creates plays for other people. So he needs to continue doing that. We've seen in preseason guys like OG and Precious have kind of been trying to handle the ball a little bit more, try to get in the paint. It's not always pretty when it works, when they try. Sometimes it works beautifully. I know in the first preseason game, Precious had an awesome dunk. But then you look at who he dunked on, and it was Walker Kessler, rookie, first year in the league. Like, yeah, it's a little different going against Walker Kessler than going against Giannis, obviously. But bottom line, these guys are going to be given more opportunities to get the ball in the paint and create opportunities for themselves, and from there create opportunities for other people and pass the ball. So that's, I think, really kind of what it comes down to is just getting in there and really forcing things and not kind of hanging out around the perimeter and kind of jacking up these half-assed 3-point shots or contested twos. And one other thing, I think, as I mentioned, Scotty and Pascal will be really key for this. I think all the regulars will be really key for this. One thing that I think would be interesting to see is I'm looking further down the depth chart now at the really, really deep guys who maybe won't even make the roster. We've seen Josh Jackson show up in camp. We've seen Jeff Doughton show up in camp. And I look at those guys and I see guys who are showing not against NBA level defenses, mind you, against summer league defenses, against back of the roster training camp defenses, but they're showing the ability to get in the paint. They're showing the ability to score. And I'm kind of thinking back to, like, if you think back to a couple years ago, what Terrence Davis was for this team, right? Like, he was a guy who just came out of nowhere, could hit some threes, could get to the rim. Not a perfect player, obviously had problems off the court as well, but they found a spot for him because he could do those things. And I think there might be room for someone like a Jeff Doughton or even a Delano Banton. Delano has looked really good in the paint this preseason, to get some minutes there because they can do things that other guys on the roster can't. Anyway, I have some more to say, but I'll leave it there for now.
Jas, can you enlighten us further on how this Raptors offense can take them to the next level?
There's one solution. You need knockdown shooters because otherwise it's super.
Otto Porter.
Yeah. Oh, hey, he started in the finals. That's a really good place to start. No, I mean, it's in transition. The Raptors are sort of that unicorn team. Nobody can stop them, right? You're 6'9". It's not like, oh yeah, let me defend the guy that's my size and catch him on the break. It's like, no, there's always going to be a mismatch. There's always going to be an advantage. So the transition offense is never an issue. I think everybody sort of understands that. The half court, sort of like, Skip, you mentioned it. There's a lot of talent on this team. There's a lot of athletic ability, skill, what have you. But one thing that they don't have is a knockdown shooter. I mean, Gary is a streaky guy. He can get hot. Fred was super hot during that December, January, period. But then, those minutes
healthy Fred is a knockdown shooter, but
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
But when you play him 40 plus minutes a game, like his knees are going to give out, right? So, and we saw that in the playoffs. He was terrible. So I think just having knockdown shooters, that's why I'm pretty high on guys like Wancho or even Malachi. I mean, I think these guys are really guys who can really open up the floor if they're knocking down their shots. And they're defensively, I mean, they're okay. They're not great, but OG Anunoby, yes, theoretically, in theory, he's a great shooter or like a above average 3-point shooter. But I mean, how many games did he miss last year, right? He only played, what was it, 48 or 50? I can't remember. It was on the low end.
Yeah, it was
on the low end,
I think.
Yeah. And then Pascal, that's one of the things that he wants to shore up this year. So I'm kind of, excited about that. But then outside of that, I mean, you've got Scotty, you got Precious. Precious has made improvements there as well, but they're not knockdown shooters. And I think that's one thing that's going to hold this team back. That's why they were 19th in scoring last year. But their defense, I believe they're like 9th. So they made it up in that sort of department.
We'll get into that.
But I do think that this team has a ceiling right now.
But
if nobody's knocking down jump shots, I genuinely do, because they have everything else.
Can I weigh in here, guys?
Sure. Jump in.
Okay. Wagwanin.
Delano.
There we go. Get playing
Delano
bus.
Banton.
Yeah.
Honestly, like when we talk about the structure, the depth chart of this team, and we look into their offense, there's so many keys that can be unlocked for ultimate potential. Like obviously, Skip and I, you said it back on part 1 about Scotty being the guy, the cornerstone, the man for this team coming up soon. Along with Precious Achiuwa, he won't be the man, but he will be there. And you also got like the Pascal Siakam, you got the Fred VanVleet, you got the OG Anunoby, you got the Chris Bouchers, you got the Kem Burgess, you got the Thaddeus Young, you got the like I just said, Delano Banton, the Mandem from the 45, fam. You already done know, right? You got Bo Cruz, you got Josh Jackson, you got
don't forget Gabe Brown, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they're not gonna have his rights. There's no way he makes the team. Yeah.
No, yesterday's game was pretty nice to watch.
There's so much potential for this Toronto Raptors to unlock an offense that we did not see last year. We did not get to witness, right? And especially in this Eastern Conference being so close and so tight, when you look at the Bucks, the Sixers, Celtics, the Heat, the Nets, the Cavs, the Hawks, right? When you're looking at all these teams, where the Raptors fit in, now it looks pretty good. It does look pretty good. It depends on how Nick Nurse plays it out, because like Jas, you alluded to, that Nick Nurse likes to keep them on a tight string. Not in your words, I'm just paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And
I think his string gets tighter as the year goes on. I imagine the first couple months it'll be loose.
Well, he says he's going to play Fred under 37 minutes, so take that with a grain of salt.
But now that the Raptors can unlock an offensive side to them, what do you guys see from the Raptors' defensive side? Like you alluded to, what were they ranked as last year?
I believe they were a top 10, so like 9th, I want to say.
I saw 10th on Basketball Reference. Yeah.
I saw it 9th. I saw it 9th as well. So
depends on the metric you use.
I think I'm stealing Zach Lowe, whatever number he used. I heard him mention it on a pod. So yeah, but yeah, they were top 10 essentially.
They were out there. So guys, how do you think these players, like we just spoke about the depth chart and the minimizing of minutes for certain players on offense, and the offense potentially unlocking something greater, what do you guys see for the defense coming up this year? Jas?
I think we saw flashes of it last year, right? Against Philly, I think one of the big issues was obviously, I mean, you're playing against a future Hall of Famer. Yeah, Embiid. I mean, there's not many guys in the league who can, bother Embiid, let alone stop him. So I think that was sort of an anomaly in the sense that it's easy for Raptors to get exploited in that sense when they're playing a traditional big, but not every team has a traditional big, and that's not where the NBA is trending toward. And I think against, your average team, the Raptors are going to have the defensive advantage. There's just so many areas where they can just, create mismatches or switching defensively. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I know the Celtics like to switch a lot, but they don't have. Yeah, exactly.
Hang on, can I just totally aside? Everyone always says we're moving away from the traditional big, but then like 3 of the 4 best players in the world are bigs. So I mean, there is that.
but would you say
and Joker?
Yeah.
Yeah, but would you? Okay, those again, they're the top 5 players or whatever. But wouldn't you say from just like sort of like an aerial view, just looking at the league?
For sure.
More than often, it's
for sure. But eventually, you got to beat everybody. Anyway,
exactly.
Go on with your point. I just had that thought.
I think the biggest thing for the Raptors, and they didn't address it last year, is they need, whether it's at the buyout, whether it's at the trade deadline, they need a big, just for insurance purposes, against a team like Philly or against a team like Milwaukee even, when they tried out Brook Lopez. Because you saw what Embiid did. The gravity he created, right? It just screws up your whole defensive identity. So if you have somebody who can at least bother him, tire him out or something like that, I think that's key, because you're going to play the Jokic's, the Embiid's, the Anthony Davis's, throughout the season. So you should have an insurance policy there. But other than that, I'm really high on the Raptors' defensive
what about
ceiling.
You're speaking about the bigs. What about like the Kem Burke, Thad Young, Precious Chua?
Yeah, those guys are tiny against a giant like Embiid, right? And then Kem, you're right. I do like Kem. Kem's a stout defensive big. Last year he had the nagging injury, so I think that sort of held him back. But he's someone who can sort of hold his own in spot minutes, but you can't expect him to play 15 minutes guarding Embiid. He's gonna.
Let's be real. Kem was a ragdoll against Embiid.
He was terrible last year. He was terrible. I think everyone can acknowledge
Precious bothered him a little bit, but no one's going to bother Embiid that much.
What about Koloko? I'm kidding.
You give him like 5 years.
Yeah, no. It's more about.
What do you think about the defense this coming year for the Toronto Raptors?
Well, now we're talking big.
How do you see them stacking against what they performed last year?
Well, Jas is talking more like playoff defense, like specifically match up against 1 or 2 players. I'm more looking at big picture, how they're going to defend in general. I think the Raptors were good last year. They weren't great, but they played a really aggressive style, as we all know, led to a lot of transition opportunities. That's sort of just in their DNA now. Like Nurse was saying in preseason, we know who we are now, meaning we're going to keep doing this. We're not going to change our style at all. We're just going to keep getting better at it. So they obviously feel they believe in that style. And so presumably they'll continue to grow and develop in that style. And if you look up and down, the 9 guys we talked about as the main roster, so to speak, there isn't really a bad defender in that group. No, really, really bad defender. I have it broke down.
Even on the outside, there's no bad defender.
Well, I break it down as we got 3 guys who are elite defenders, 3 guys who could be all-world defenders. And to me, that's OG, that's Van Vliet, and that's Precious Achiuwa. If Precious Achiuwa can continue to develop.
No, Siakam? You don't got Siakam?
Siakam's like right there, maybe a half step behind. Yeah. Siakam has the capabilities.
Yeah. What about I don't know.
Scotty's dude, not that tier.
Scotty's still making mistakes. Scotty's getting blown by Grant Williams in preseason basketball, man. I got to see some more effort from Scotty.
For sure. So I have those 3 kind of as my elite tier. Then I have Siakam as like my very, very good tier. And you can kind of throw Boucher and Porter in that tier as well, roughly. Maybe a half step behind Siakam, but pretty close. Boucher was really good defensively last year, and Otto Porter, I'm mostly going on reputation here, but he's 3-and-D guy. He's supposed to be a 3-and-D guy. All the reports are good. And then you go kind of to your 3 guys who could use a little bit of improvement, but they're still solid. And that's Scotty, that's Trent, and that's Thaddeus Young. I don't know if that's fair on that. He's a little older, probably not quite as mobile. But
would you say Gary is a good defender? It's just like we saw him play against Harden. Harden did whatever he wanted with him, right? And that's mostly because of obviously he's a great player, but like size, Gary wasn't able to sort of match that strength and speed, surprisingly, of James Harden, right? I think Gary's a good. He's a good team defender. He's a great deflector.
Gary's like a blitz defender. Like he needs someone to. You need someone to throw at the quarterback sometimes. Like that's kind of.
He comes from the weak side.
He's light.
Yeah, he's not a great defender, but I mean, if Gary's your worst defender and everyone else is sort of a tier above him, that's really not a bad team all around. So I think that what it's really going to come down to, and this is, we know how Nick Nurse teams operate, right? All these guys lower down on the bench, if they want to get minutes, they're going to have to do something defensively. And that's where it's going to be like guys like Juancho, like I've looked at his defensive stats. They're not very exciting. They're not very good. Coloco is one guy who could slot in and be strong defensively from the get-go. So I think that might be his path to minutes.
But he might be in the G League a lot, though, I think. I don't think Coloco.
Yeah, they're going to develop him.
He's not going to be with the team the whole year. He's going to spend some time in the G League for sure. But I think as the season progresses, with the way Nick Nurse runs his defenses, like a guy like Coloco could find himself thrust into a larger and larger role as other guys show that they can't hold up defensively, for example. Yeah. And that's where, your Coloco's going to have a shot. Ken Birch is going to get probably a bit more of a shot at some point. I think he's lower in the depth chart, but there's going to be injuries. There's going to be spots for him. And I'm not sure how he ranks defensively overall. Solid, I would say, but nothing spectacular. But then you look at the really deep depth chart guys, like I was talking about earlier, like your Josh Jacksons, your Doughtons. Like if these guys are gonna have any chance to earn minutes at all, they're gonna have to do it on the defensive side of the ball as well. So that's where I'd be worried about. Maybe they're a little leaky right at the very bottom of the rotation, but the top and mid part of the rotation is super strong defensively, and I think they'll be fine.
And I think that's why I didn't really go deep into their defense throughout the season, because I know they're going to be stout. It's more about the playoffs when things slow down, when you're playing against a trotting big who happens to be an MVP candidate. So like it's those important moments, and even against like the Celtics, I feel like Horford would have given the Raptors a lot of trouble. Last year's team, at least, stretch 5 thing. So that's one thing I genuinely hope Coloco turns into.
Okay. Guys, I just got, before we get out of here, we're pressed for time. This has been a long season preview. This is already part 2. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a sequel. It is The Empire Strikes Back. You might be too young to catch that joke. But I just have one other quick question to run by you guys. Actually, I have a couple, but let's just go with this one. Jas, what's that kid's name? Should the Raptors tank to get him? What's his name? I can't pronounce it.
I'm going to slow down because I messed it up. I've been practicing his last name. So it's Victor Wembanyama. Okay. So it's essentially 3 syllables. Wembanyama. So yeah, 3. And then in terms of tanking, I mean the odds are great, obviously. Even for the teams that do tank, it's not like it was in years past.
That kid looks good, but if the Raptors do tank, I want them to get Ho You Fat so I can buy that jersey.
I think Ho You Fat is like an older guy, man. I'm pretty sure he was born. I could be completely wrong. I could be thinking about somebody else. I'm pretty sure he was born in '88. Because the team that's the Adelaide whatever team, that's a professional team in Australia in the NBL. I'm pretty sure he's an older guy, but hey, we might be able to sign him to that.
I want that jersey, bro. I want that jersey.
Some really terrible team like the Pacers should sign him and just like waive him just so they have the jersey.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd buy that. Just kidding.
What about the Jas? Jas, Ho You Fat.
Yeah.
Get it? I got you.
You got it.
Guys. Okay. So before we get out of here, I do have one more final question here for Jas. You weren't here for part 1 of our preview. So we did make our predictions as to how many wins the Raptors will get and what seed they can come out with in the Eastern Conference.
I'm hitting the over. I'm hitting the over and over again. I think it was at 48.5, right? If I had to guess,
even lower. I think it was even lower than that.
I think it was
47.5.
46.5. Yeah.
I would bet 50. wins. I'm high on this team. I'd bet 50 in the tough Eastern Conference, no less. But I'm really high on this team. I think staying as long as they're healthy. So I hit the over.
What seed do you see them getting?
Ooh, what does 50 get you in the NBA in the Eastern Conference?
Hey! I said 48 wins last year, fifth seed, and they got it. So
that's tough. You know what? I think a lot of people sort of have them in their top 6. I'm not sure if it's like hammered in. Me personally,
anybody north of the border has them in the top 6.
Oh no! You listen to some of the hoop heads, like the talking heads, like Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons. A lot of them have money on the Raptors, not actual money, but that's who they would wager on having the Raptors in that top 6. But I'm gonna go with number 5 because I know we're short on time, so I'll just cut to it. What do you guys have? Fifth seed, yeah.
You're going with that one.
We already covered this in the last episode, but I said fifth seed, 50 wins.
This is for you, ladies.
There you go.
One thing I didn't think of is that if the East is a lot better, the wins are going to be kind of compacted towards the center a little bit. That's one thing we should consider.
That's true. There is a qualifier though, the Brooklyn Nets. So who knows how they turn out this year, right? So
of course,
it's a big one.
And who knows about Boston?
They whooped us yesterday, man, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, but it's
at least. I know.
It wasn't coaching in the structure.
I'm an overreactor.
Jas, thank you very
sir.
much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys out there for watching, subscribing, enjoying, liking, commenting. I see you guys say some bad stuff about me, but that's okay. You guys can find us on all social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, which is where you're watching us right now. And if not, you're bootlegging, you owe us some money. Skip, we're also on iTunes, Spotify, Apple.
Yep.
Right?
Amazon.
You guys can find Skip himself at Dougie Jays on Twitter. Like I said, it's baseball season. Get at him. The Jays are going. He's white knuckle. Not just because he's white, but it's white knuckle. He's stressing out right now. You guys show him some love. Let him know how good you feel about the Toronto Raptors. We appreciate all of you guys out there, especially across the country. Like, I've seen the reaction from the preseason games so far in Edmonton, Victoria, now Montreal. It's a lot of love across the country for your Toronto Raptors, and especially you guys overseas also that are watching us to get your Raptors fix. We appreciate you guys, and I'm pretty sure the organization does as well. So, Jas, do you have anything left that you would like to say to the people out there, other than to tell them to tell you happy birthday?
Super random, and it doesn't have to do with the Raptors, but I genuinely think that RJ Barrett and the New York Knicks are going to be in the playoff picture when the season is done. I don't know if that's a hot take, but that's hot
take. We're gonna have to cover that.
Who are they knocking up? There's so many.
Oh, I guess we'll have to save that for the next episode.
Yeah, that's another one. All right.
That's another one for another day for you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Jas. Skip, you got anything left to say?
No, I'm tapped out.
Go Jays.
You tapped out?
Yeah.
Really?
Go.
Really?
We better post this before the end of the wild card series.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you really got to study your Jays.
Yeah.
Skip doesn't want to be here with you guys, ladies and gentlemen. He'd rather be watching the Jays game right now as of this recording. But, ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to say is thank you so much. So on behalf of myself, the one and only Jas Grewal from the Toronto Star, and my man Skip, who just recently joined Raptors Republic, and you guys saw it on part 1 with Josh. On behalf of all three of us, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
peace.